Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Big Bird back with another video. And as you can tell from the length of this video, it's going to be a long one. And you can also tell from the title what the topic is going to be today. So, for those were expecting to be leaving today, and when I mean leaving this earth for good, you're going to get caught up, the rapture. Well, I got bad news for you, and I do apologize. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And for those who was expecting them to leave, and it's like, I can't wait till these guys get out of here. Well, I apologize too, because, once again, unfortunately, it's not going to happen. Reason being is one of the scriptures, if those who read the Bible, says, no man knows the day nor the hour. Now, at the time, it says not even the Son of Man knows, and, well, he was here on earth. I'm pretty sure that he knows now, because him and the Father are on one accord. But during his time on earth, he didn't know. But I'm pretty sure if he and the Father are one, he knows. But here's the thing. Even after all that, here's the thing. He says, he's going to come like a thief in the night, which means that we're not going to know when he comes. So you have to always be ready. That's number one. Number two, there's a certain amount of events that has to happen. It's not going to be, all right, the, quote unquote Christians are going to make it and then everybody else gets left behind. Well, if that is the case, then who's going to teach them how to, serve the Most High? If all the good people are gone, who's going to teach them? Because I can tell you this. If you're already in a state where you're not worshiping God, if you're not in that state, what's going to change when they leave? Nothing really. They just be like, oh, I'm glad they left. I ain't got to hear them. I don't have to hear them anymore. So that's not going to happen. All right. So that's another thing. And like I said, there's a certain amount of events that has to happen. For one of the things is you have to, the Bible talks about tribulation for 10 days, not no 7 days or whatever. And we're going to get into that in the video. But in Revelation, it says, ye shall have tribulation for 10 days. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be some like 10 days. No, that means it's going to be 10 years. Why do I say 10 years? Because according to Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 6 and Numbers 14:34, in prophecy, a day is a year in prophecy. So when he says 10 days, he means actually 10 years. And that's also where they also go ahead and they use that also for the whole the 70th week of Daniel. Apparently that got split apart, which is nonsense. We're going to get into that too, because I'm going to talk about that as part of this presentation today. All right, so because they say that final week, which is 7 years, and then it's going to be cut off in the midst of the week. Well, people has interpreted that wrong, and I'm going to explain that, and it's going to explain a lot of things, and you're going to open your eyes to seeing things that you've probably never seen before, never heard before. I know you're going to be like, what is this man talking about? Big Bird over here talking about the Bible? Are you serious? Well, yeah, I'm serious. So, let me go ahead. Let me take off my game cap today. And we're going to talk about some Bible, okay? Okay. Talk about some Bible with Yermaya. All right? That's me. So, that's one thing. All right, so what ended up happening, September 23rd, it was some guy from South Africa. I'm going to say he's a minister. The reason why I say he's a minister, because he said God told him that, that the rapture was coming September 23rd and the 24th. And the reason being is that on that day, according to them, and I'm going to dispute this fact, that was going to be the Feast of Trumpets, or the Day of Trumpets, or the Day of, the Day of Shouting, which is known as, in the Hebrew tongue, Yom Teruah. And all that means is the day of shouting. And it is usually a day of trumpets being blown. And also it's a festival time. So, you have a holy gathering. People go ahead, they meet up, and they have food and stuff. A lot of the church don't do it, and the reason the church don't do it because they say, well, that's a Jewish festival. Well, it's in the Bible. So the Bible was, for anyone who believes, whether you are a Hebrew, whether you're a Jew, whether you're a heathen, Gentile, whatever. It's for those who believe, but definitely the Hebrew first. And somebody says the Jew first, no, the Hebrew first, because, basically all non-proselyte Jews are Hebrews. Not all Hebrews are Jews. And I say this because of the fact I say non-proselyte because the majority of people who say they are Jews are proselyte. And all that means is that they're just converted. They have converted into the faith. They're not natural born. And I don't want to get into how I know about that right now. That's another topic for another day. But anyway, the point is that September 23rd, they said that was the day of trumpets. Okay, that's when the trumpet's going to be blown, and that's when everybody's going to get raptured up, whatever. Really, in the old Hebrew tradition, is that when you have the Yom Teruah, that mark the days of awe, which means that basically from the first day until up until about the 10th day of that month, the first day, because basically Yom Teruah is the first day of the 7th month on the Hebrew calendar, according to what God has told them to do. He said, hey, he told them in Exodus, let's just go there right now. So we are at Exodus chapter 12 and verse 1. And it says, and the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Now, I'm going to stop right there because he said, this shall be to you the beginning of months. And so this is actually the Rosh Hashanah. What they're talking about right now, they have said that Rosh Hashanah now is this first day of the 7th month, that's not true. That's not the case, because that is actually Yom Teruah, because Rosh in Hebrew means head, and Shana means what is it? Year. Shana means year. So when you say Rosh Hashanah, you're just saying the head of the year, because the Ha in Hebrew means the. I'm going to teach y'all a little Hebrew. Okay? So yeah, so Rosh is head. So it means it's the head of the year. That's all that means. That's all Rosh Hashanah means, is head of the year. That's what it literally means. But the Most High said that, this shall be to you the beginning of months. And what month he was talking about was the month of Abib. And Abib occurs during, on our calendar, March, April. So and it varies. So basically the Hebrew calendar is determined by moons, and this is why they said that, okay, this is going to happen on September 23rd, because that was the first day. Supposedly they said of the new moon, it's like September 23rd, but in all actuality, it appears at night. So it was actually the new moon, according to them, appeared on September 22nd, and it goes into September 23rd and ends, right before sunset on September 23rd. That would be what they had calculated as Yom Teruah. But I'm going to show you that according to what everybody else saw out there in the world, the new moon did not appear on September 22nd at night. Okay, so let me show you. Okay, so this is a website that I go to like every month. Yes, that's right. I go to this website every month, and I try to find out, okay, what is the first of the month? When is the new moon appearing? why do I follow that? Because there are certain days that I don't go ahead and I cease activity because of the fact that the Bible says to do so. And one of those days would be the Day of Atonement. That's one thing, also known as Yom Kippur in the Hebrew. But yeah, so I have to find out when the actual month is, and you can't calculate when the moon is going to appear in the sky. You have to actually observe it. And so there are people out there in the world who goes out and basically, like near the 29th or something like that, 28th, 29th day of the lunar month, they go outside and they go look to see if there's visibility of seeing a crescent moon. And so what we found out is that right now, this is like I said, this is 7 months. As you can see right here, it says 7 month, okay, in accordance with September, October. And basically, someone reported from New Zealand that they saw the new moon September 23rd at evening. And then the Israel-based observation is September 23rd at evening. Now that goes into September 24th. Now this goes into their prophecy. They're saying, oh well, okay, so it wasn't September 23rd, it was September 24th. Still, nonetheless, it didn't happen. Okay, the rapture didn't happen. Okay, folks are still here, and they're gonna be here after this prediction fails, whatever. But that's how they came about. And so you can't, and now they have changed it to, oh well, then it's going to be a full moon, and that's when the Feast of Trumpets is going to be. Well, no, the Feast of Trumpets is the first day of the 7th month. It's not on the 14th day or the 15th day of the 7th month. What a feast comes on that day is also known as the Feast of Tabernacles, or as shortened, the Feast of Booths, which is known as Sukkot in Hebrew, because you have to make your own little booth or tent. You're supposed to dwell in that tent for 8 days. Now, I have not done that, but I will be doing that in the future. I'm going to go ahead and buy me a tent. I know some of y'all thinking like, is this man going to buy him a tent and stay in the tent for 8 days? Yes, I'm going to buy me a tent. I'm going to stay in the tent for 8 days. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so that is what Sukkot is. It's known as the Feast of Booths, or the Feast of Tabernacles. It says tabernacles, but really they all make booths. You're supposed to stay in like a booth or a tent. That's what you're supposed to do for 8 days. And the first day is a holy convocation, which means that it is a Sabbath. And the last day is a Sabbath, meaning you should do no work therein and all that stuff. All right. So yeah. Because they're talking about now that, okay, we got it wrong. So it's going to be on the Julian calendar because that's 13 days behind. So it's going to now appear on a full moon. These guys, they're changing the date. So like I said, the Feast of Tabernacles is on the 15th day of the 7th month, according to the Hebrew calendar. And the Feast of Trumpets is not going to remove its date. Okay, it's based on observation of the moon. So, basically, the new moon had appeared. You can't go and alter the moon. You can't say, oh well, new moon, go out to October 6th. We need you on October 6th. It doesn't work that way. It appeared on September 23rd at night, and the full moon is going to appear somewhere around October 6th, something like that. And the reason why I say that these guys said September 27th, because they use what is called the astronomical. They do calculations based on the astronomy. So you have the astronomical new moon, which means that basically it's the point where you can't see the moon at all. You can't see it at all. So there's no visibility. So basically you're supposed to go out and watch for the new moon. Like when they went out in the old days. And when I say the old days, I meant like back in the Old Testament days. They would go out and they would search for the new moon. And if there's no visibility, if the sun is covering like the whole moon, if the sun is covering where you can't see no moon, then you can't say, oh well, it's the new moon out. No, you have to see that small crescent um, of the of a moon, and that's how also too the Muslims, they go off a lunar calendar. That's why you have. But here's the difference between the Hebrew calendar and the Islamic calendar. In the Islamic calendar, they don't add in an extra month. That's why you will find out that Ramadan could be at any time of the year. And it takes, I think, about 27, 28 years before it resets. So like their years are like way behind. Unlike the Hebrew calendar, and you add in an extra month, and this is how you add in an extra month with the Hebrew calendar. So like at the end of like the 12th month, so they go 12 months, and then at the end of the 12th month, like around the 28th or 29th, they would go out and they would search for barley. And barley during that time is usually green, but if it's like close towards the new year, that those green barley crops would start turning yellowish, and you could actually consume it, but it would have to be also weak enough to be destroyed by hail. And so, and they call that stage, it's called the Abib stage, or Aviv. And so when you have Aviv barley, you have enough of it, then usually that next new moon, they declare it as the first month. Now, if you go out there after 12 months, and basically on the 28th, 29th, that barley is still green, then they say, okay, we can't declare the next new moon the new year. We got to add in an extra month because the seasons is not there yet. And so that's how that works. And so that's why you always find that Passover is in the spring. But with a lot of the and that came from recently from Kyrite reckoning, because they was the only ones who did it for a long time, and that's going to go into what I'm going to talk about in a little bit as far as new moons. That's how you would determine the new year, and it also keeps up with the season, and it also keeps up with the Gregorian calendar. So they're going off of the Julian calendar, right? Julian. Well, here's the thing, because they said it's not going to be October 6th because it's 13 days behind. Because basically the Most High, and the Messiah, they were using the Julian calendar for number one. The Julian calendar is named after Julius Caesar. So why in the world would the Most High or the Messiah, okay? And his name ain't Jesus, by the way, for those who say that, because there was no J 2,000 years ago. J came up, I believe, in the 1500s, the letter J. So how is his name Jesus when the letter J wasn't even invented? And not to mention the language of English didn't even happen 2,000 years ago. They were speaking, the whole world was speaking Aramaic, because for one, that's a commerce language. That was just like English is a commerce language. So everybody speak English now. Back then, Aramaic was the commerce language. So you would have folks speaking Latin, you have folks speaking Greek, but Aramaic was the commerce language, and that's the language everybody spoke. And Aramaic is very close to Hebrew. I mean, there's a few variances because most of the terms in Aramaic and Hebrew are the same, but there's a few variances. Some things are not the same. Okay, so for example, like in Hebrew, the way you would say God is El, but in Aramaic, it's Allah. Does that sound familiar? Because a lot of the people who are in Islam, they say Allah, and that's where that came from. Does that make sense, right? They say Allah, and the folks in Aramaic say Allah. Then that was what is it? That was the Messiah was saying on the cross. He was saying, "Allah, Allah, lama sabachthani." My God, why have thou forsaken me? Makes sense, right? All right, so that's just a prime example. But back to the whole Julian thing, Julian calendar thing. I'll keep getting off track and stuff, and I keep going there. The Julian calendar is basically the Gregorian calendar. It just was updated. I mean, it was updated with the Gregorian calendar. The reason being is that just like with the Muslims, when they didn't, their seasons was off. Well, after a while, after hundreds and hundreds of years, they was out of season. It was 10, 11 days off at the time in 1582. So they went from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar. That doesn't mean that, and that's a worldly calendar, by the way, because you have on there for one Janus. Okay, Janus is considered the god of gates and doors, and also considered the god of beginnings. That's why they have changed the civil year. Right, it used to be in March, started in March. The Romans had it in March, but they moved it to January because of Janus. Yeah, January is named after Janus. February is named after purification. March is named after Mars or Aries. Okay, April is another one. Maya, another one. June, Juno. July, Julius. August, Augustus. And then here's an interesting thing: September. In Latin, that means 7 months. October, you know octo, right? Octagon, right? That's a eight shaped it's an 8 shaped object. Octagon, like the stop sign is an octagon. Yeah, October means 8th month. November means 9th month. December means 10th month. You know, like Deca. Is this making sense to y'all? And because it only makes sense because the starting point was March, right? March was 1, April was 2, May was 3, right? June is 4, July is 5, August is 6, and then you come to September, right? 7. Like I said, that means in Latin 7th month. I hope this is making sense. And so, yeah, the Julian calendar was just outdated, so they had to update it. And they to a more accurate calendar, and so that's why that goes ahead and done it. So when you guys talk about the rapture is going to happen, no, the rapture is not going to happen because we were 13 days behind to use the calendar. No, the Most High gave the Hebrews a calendar to use and said this shall be the beginning of months to you, and that happened around March, April. That's what he said. Okay, and Rosh Hashanah is not the new year. And when I talk about Rosh Hashanah, I'm talking about the first day of the 7th month on the Hebrew calendar. That is known as Yom Teruah, not Rosh Hashanah. Okay, there's a lot of confusion on that. Okay, the Bible don't even mention that as a holy day, Rosh Hashanah, because it's not. Oh, excuse me. But anyway, so they based their prophecy off of that, and it's wrong. And the reason why all this has started long ago. This is nothing new. Okay, so back in the 1800s, you had people who were called, Millerites. And Millerites were basically, they were followers of, I'm not going to say, they like followed, well, okay, I'm going to say it. They were parishioners of William Miller. And he was a preacher back in the early 1800s who believed in something called the 2300 day or 2300 year prophecy, which is located in Daniel. All right. And so let's just go there for a bit. So I'm at Daniel chapter 8 and verse 14, and it said, "And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed." Okay, so William Miller, his belief and understanding was that basically the earth was the sanctuary of the Most High. And after 2,300 days or 2,300 years, the sanctuary was going to be cleansed. Now, here's the thing about that. All right, so the starting point for this prophecy, because Gabriel said that this prophecy starts at the commandment to build the temple, right, and restore it, because Daniel didn't know when this was going to start, and so that period of time came in the fall of 457 BC or BCE, however you want to say it. That's when that came. So at that time, they went ahead and they rebuilt. They had rebuilt the temple at that time, and and also within the 2300 day prophecy, it said 70 weeks are determined upon thy people. Within that prophecy, right? So from and that starting point also was at 457 BC. So what you have is, like it said, what is it, 69 weeks? So let's go there. Let's go there. So I don't want you guys to say I'm just talking off the top of my head. I'm going to show you. So if you guys go on and read, if you go on and read Daniel 8 and go on and read Daniel 9, Daniel's trying to find understanding, and he's praying because he's trying to understand, okay, the 2300 days. And so basically after, after a while, they gave him the info. So let's go to Daniel chapter 9, verse 20. And while I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, and presenting my supplication before the Lord my God for the mountain of my God, while I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, who I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. And he informed me and talked with me and said, "O Daniel, I am now come forth to give thee skill and understanding." So now he's going to tell him about, okay, the 2300 days, the starting point. All right, and how do I know that? Because in the next verse it says, "At the beginning of our supplication, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore understand the matter and consider the vision. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins and to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and prophecy and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again and the wall, even in troublous times." All right, so let's stop right there. So remember I told you that starting point of the commandment to go forth to rebuild and restore Jerusalem was 69 weeks to the Messiah the Prince. So when you go ahead 469, because remember, each day is a year. So it's basically 483 years. So when you go from 457, right, 457 BC, that was the starting point. And let's do it. Basically, what is it? 69 times 7 is 483. So we're going to do 483 minus 457, and that should tell us where we're going to go to. So okay, so we're going to do 69 and then times 7, right? Because it says, 7 and then 3 scoring 2. That's 7 plus 62, 69. And then because of the fact that these are weeks, we're going to do it times 7. And that comes out to 483. As I said before, 483. And these are years. And so, and I told you that basically the commandment to go forth and rebuild the Jerusalem was 457. So we do that minus 457, and we come out to 26 AD. Now here's a problem. There is no 0 year. There's no 0 year. So you have to add a 1. Comes out to 27 AD. And this is in the fall of 27 AD. What happened in the fall of 27 AD? Yeshua was baptized. And for the next 3.5 years, he had his ministry. So from 27 AD until 31 AD, spring of 31 AD. That's how long his ministry lasted. And the reason why I said and the ministry was cut off because he was cut off. Now, Daniel says something about that, right? Remember the whole thing about the 70th week of Daniel, right? The 7 years of tribulation. we're going to get into that. And we're going to basically say, hey, there's not going to be no 7 years of tribulation according to Daniel 9:27. So let's go there. And so after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with the flood. Until the end of the war, desolations are determined. Okay, so basically, remember the whole 69 weeks until the Messiah, the Prince? Well, it says after those 69 weeks, the Messiah is going to be cut off, which means that he's going to be killed, right? And so, when is he going to get cut off? Let's go to Daniel 9:27. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading abominations, he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation, and that the torment shall be poured upon the desolate. So, he's going to confirm a covenant. How did he confirm the covenant? With many for 1 week. What was it? The Last Supper. Last Supper, when he said, this is my body, this is the covenant, that's how he confirmed the covenant. And it says, and in the midst of the week, right? In the middle of the week, he shall call the sacrifice and oblations. Why is that? Because he became the sacrifice. So there's no longer any reason to go ahead and have the oblation or the sacrifice, because he became that. And that one-time sacrifice basically nullifies sacrifices forever. And that happened in the middle of the week. Now, many people use this as to say, oh, well, the Antichrist will basically confirm a covenant for 1 week and then he's going to break it. That's the 70. That's what they talk about. But no, it says that he shall confirm the covenant, and the he in there is the Messiah. And he calls the sacrifice and oblation to cease because he had died in the midst of the week, 31 AD, right? That's 3.5 years, or that's in the midst of 27 AD to 34 AD. So, and not only that, but check this out. He died in the midst of a literal week. Like a lot of people saying Good Friday, right? Well, no, because the only reason why they say Good Friday, because they say, well, he died before the Sabbath. Well, people don't understand, and I will show it to you right now. Okay, what comes after the Passover is a Sabbath. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 23. Okay, so it says right here, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 1, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, concerning the feast of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations. Even these are my feast. 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. Ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. So right now it's establishing that the Sabbath is a holy convocation. Holy convocations are Sabbaths, right? Well, normally. Okay, so it says the feast of holy convocations, but that doesn't mean every feast day is a Sabbath, because it tells you on there which day you don't do any work, and that would be a Sabbath. So the 7-day Sabbath, because you don't do any work, that is a holy convocation. You're supposed to gather, you're supposed to meet up on that day. And I know some of y'all are like, well, I don't do that and whatever. And I understand, I respect your belief. If you don't do that, you don't do that. But this is what it says about it. Okay. And so these are the feast of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in your season. So basically, convocations just mean gathering. It means a gathering, but basically on the Sabbath, it was, you don't do any work and you're supposed to gather. All right. In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover. Now they said Rosh Hashanah, right? 13 days from Rosh Hashanah. Does the Passover happen? No, it doesn't happen. So then that's not really Rosh Hashanah. Passover happens in the spring. It happens, where most folks go ahead and they call Easter, in which Easter is not even, it's not the way that they calculate Easter. Easter is calculated. It's not even done by Bible means. It's done by astronomical means. And I'll explain that right now before I even go into about this Feast of Unleavened Bread. Easter, basically, they said that on the full moon after the vernal equinox, on that Sunday, that is Easter. It has nothing to do with the Bible. It has to do with basically the vernal equinox. They say that the first full moon after the vernal equinox is Easter. That's how it's always calculated. Always. All right, now let me continue. But so the 14th day of the first month of even is the Lord's Passover. That's the day that the Messiah had died on. He died on the Passover. Now the next day, it says, and on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread unto the Lord. 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread. And the first day ye shall have a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein. Oh, look. Holy convocation, you don't do any work. That means that's the Sabbath. And so what happened the next day after the 14th, right? It was a Sabbath. So you sometimes you have in some weeks you'll have a Sabbath on the 7th day, and you'll have a Sabbath during the week. And when that happens, it's usually during the feast days. And Passover was happening during that time. And so you had the 15th day of that month. They went ahead and they rested. They kept the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And then they also rested on the 7th day. And so that's why it's impossible to get from Friday night to Sunday morning. 3 days and 3 nights. It's impossible. Mathematically, it's impossible. All right, but this is all within the 2,300 days, right? So he was cut off in the midst of that week. So he was literally, because that Passover happened in the middle of the week. And that's when he was cut off. But back to Miller, right? So he has this 2,300 days. So it goes from 457 BC all the way. He calculated it to 1843. And the reason he calculated to 1843, because he didn't account for there's no 0 year. And so they had to change it to 1844. And we all know what happens. 1844, they did not go ahead. The end of the world did not come. It didn't come in 1844. And so a lot of people, they call that the Great Disappointment. So you guys can look up what it's called, the Great Disappointment. Google that. But that's what the Millerites did. But there's something else that happened out of the Millerites. So they went ahead and said, well, it must not have been the heavenly sanctuary. It must not have been the earthly sanctuary. It must have been the heavenly sanctuary that had to be cleansed. But why would the heavenly sanctuary have to be cleansed? Because it was defiled. They had that war in heaven, and Satan had to get kicked out. Lucifer had to get kicked out. So the sanctuary had to be cleansed during that time. But that's another topic for another day. That's going way too deep into something else. But out of the Millerite movement, that's how the Seventh-day Adventists were formed. They were formed from that movement because those Millerites, they professed to be First-day Adventists, and then First-day Adventists became Seventh-day Adventists. And that's not taught in your local churches, by the way. That's something I know because I hung in circles who knew about this. But that's how the Seventh-day Adventists formed. And the Seventh-day Adventists today is not the same Seventh-day Adventists that was back then in the 1800s, because they was dealing in a lot of stuff. They was always looking towards They was looking to, go home just like people do. I mean, look, life is hard. What 50 Cent said, death must be easy because life is hard. Nobody wants to stay here. Nobody wants to go through the troubles. So they looking to escape. Bad news for you. You can't escape. Not until it's time. And everybody has to go through tribulation. Now, that doesn't mean everyone's going to die during it, but there are people that's going to die during the tribulation. There's people who's going to witness it. You're not going to be able to go up and go into the clouds and to say, I'm going to escape. It's not going to happen. Sorry to disappoint you. That's not going to happen. But yeah, that's how that began with the Millerite movement. But back to what I was saying though. So you had the 2300 days, and that ended in 1844. And it is very interesting now, because now people are, they're looking towards these, and I've noticed this recently. When it comes to prophecy now they're looking towards the feast days. They're looking towards the holy days, in which that is not a bad thing, because the holy days do present signs. For instance, like the Day of Atonement, I believe is the end of the world. Why do I say that? Because basically at that moment, you can no longer, because remember I said you had tribulation 10 days, 10 years. Those might be the 10 years that you have to go ahead and repent and ask for forgiveness, because usually during the 10 days that leads up to Yom Kippur, you're praying and repenting and asking for forgiveness so that your name can be written in the book of life. And I'm pretty sure that these people who did this, this whole rapture thing, they wasn't doing that. Why? Because the only thing they knew was, oh well, it's gonna be the feast, so we're gonna get wrapped up in the trumpets. All they were thinking about was the trumpet sound. And no, the trumpet is basically, it's an alarm sound. It's a sound of warning. So when they blow the trumpets, that means that basically danger is on the way, or something is gonna happen. That's what happens when they was blowing those trumpets. It was to alert the people that, hey, you guys need to get ready. Something is gonna happen. And so when you do that on Yom Teruah, it's telling the folks that, hey, you have 10 days to get your affairs in order, because judgment is coming on that 10th day. And they didn't, and these people don't know that. They didn't do that, because you're supposed to be praying and fasting. No, not praying and fasting, but praying and asking for forgiveness for 10 days. And then on that 10th day, that is when basically, symbolically, your name is either written in the book of life or in the book of the damned on that day. And also too, all the sins of the people were to be passed on to the scapegoat, and the scapegoat must go into a foreign land. Now, here's the thing. Here's the problem. Because the Messiah, he has all the sins of the people, right? But that's not gonna stay there forever. I'm gonna give you all a little sneak peek. I'm gonna give you all a little spoiler on this one. He's not going to keep those sins. What's going to happen is that since Satan wants to go ahead, since he wants to be the Most High, since he wants to, since he wants to go ahead and be God, well, he can bear the sins of many. And so all the sins will be transferred to him. He'll be the scapegoat, and then he has to go into a foreign country or a foreign land. Should I say because right now he's not in hell, so you have to go to hell at that time. Did I get a little too deep for you? Is it making sense for you? I hope it is. But yeah, so that is what the Yom Teruah and Yom Kippur is about. And then afterwards, after you go ahead and after everybody has been written in the book of life, it's time to celebrate. So guess what you have? You have the Feast of Tabernacles. It's a celebration. Big, huge celebration. Because on the Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur, you're supposed to afflict your soul. It says in there to afflict your soul, which means this: you're supposed to be praying and fasting for 25 hours. No food, no drink. Now, I know some of you guys are on medication and some of you guys can't do it, but for those who are able to, I recommend you do it. I do it every year. Every single year, I go no food, no drink, 25 hours. And I actually do it not on the calculated Day of Atonement, but on the actual Day of Atonement, determined by when folks see the new moon in the sky. But yeah, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I disappointed a lot of you guys. I know some of you guys are still here. But yeah, and the other thing that has to happen is that, like I said, the tribulation has to happen, for one. That's one thing. So you're going to have the so ye shall have tribulation 10 days, right? Also, too, the servant of God, must be sealed in their forehead. So you have so many things that's going to happen before, because basically that's the end event. Like when he comes, because there's only going to be one time he comes. When he comes, he's coming for his people. And it says that basically the wicked shall die at the sight of his coming. So when he comes, all eyes shall see him, and those who are wicked are gonna go. Basically, they're gonna drop dead in front of him, according to what the Bible says. So if that is the case, if this whole rapture, that means the end of the world. That's what that means. That doesn't mean the beginning. And then we go on to the other things that happens after that event. But that's another topic for another day, because I don't want to get into that. I don't want to spoil that, okay? Because there's the whole 1,000-year thing that happens after that event. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it, okay? But I just want to share my thoughts and what I know. And I can tell you this: these guys for some of you guys who go out there who believe this rapture thing, well, I mean, it's not biblical, for one. I mean, the rapture being caught up, that is biblical. Part is biblical, but I'm talking about the whole concept. People disappearing, the clothes and stuff like that, nobody to teach the people. No, that's not going to happen. It's a fantasy. It's purely science fiction. Okay, but I do applaud a lot of people who have went ahead and who have gave away their stuff, not sold. Now, if you're selling your stuff, why are you selling your stuff? You're trying to make a profit? No, give it away. If you truly believe, it says basically give it away. It didn't say sell it away. It said give it away. Give everything you have and follow me. Now, I'm not going to go ahead unless I truly know that it's about to happen. And you would know that the signs would tell you, like they said in the days of Noah, you shall know those signs. And as it says, also the coming of the Son of Man shall be. So it says, as in the days of Noah. So we have all these signs. And one of the things is, if you're really reading that book of prophecy, you find out that, okay, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. Oh no, it's about to happen. And so, but the thing is, you need to always be ready. The whole point is that you need to be on guard. And a lot of these people thinking like, oh man, this guy on TikTok said the end of the world, not the end, he said the end of the world is coming, basically, because that's what the rapture is. It's the end of the world. And he said, oh, everybody's going to get left behind. Now, that's the fantasy part. No. There won't be no left behind. And Harold Campin, he did this too. He said it as well, said, hey, it's going to happen. I'm like, okay, well, we shall see. These guys are not, prophets. And when I say prophets, basically when you are a prophet, for one, you have to be a minister of the Most High, which means, and you have to really qualify. And I don't want to, basically step on folks' toes, because I will step on your toes if I say something as to what the qualifications must be for being a minister of the Most High. And a lot of these guys out here, they don't meet it. That's just the honest truth. They don't meet it because, for one, if you were, then you would know about that. But yeah, I know I've been doing a lot of rambling, and I've been talking about this. But you guys got to be careful out there, okay? There's people out there who's false prophets and who says these predictions. Don't fall for it, okay? Especially if they ask for your money. Don't send the money. Please don't send the money. Especially when you have people that go on ahead and say, "Oh well, the end is coming this year. The end is coming that year." Look, no one really knows. No one knows. So be prepared, and if you're gonna go ahead and do good deeds, do good deeds. I do appreciate the people that was being kind to people to say, "Hey, get to know Jesus. Change your life." Great. But people out there still selling their stuff. Why are you selling it? And good for people who, I'm sorry, but this is a lesson learned. You sold your house, you sold your car, you quit your job. Well, maybe you should have just left, didn't sell anything, and then see what happens. So, because basically now folks have sold their cars, they done sold their houses, they quit their jobs. Now they're broke and homeless, which is not good. My initial thought when that happened was I laughed at them. I will be honest, I laughed at them. But after really thinking about it, it's not really funny. You have made a gigantic mistake. Now, I went ahead and I didn't send some scammers some money. I've made that mistake. And that was a mistake that I learned and said, okay, they got me while I was vulnerable. They got me. But when you selling your house, you selling your car, oh man, those are like thousands upon thousands of dollars. And the people you sold it to, they're not gonna sell it back. They don't give it back. One person gave somebody $40,000 because they said, "Oh, well, they homosexual, so they're not going to heaven." Gave their niece a $40,000. Now, I really wish that I knew these people because I would like me a house. I like me a car. I want $40,000. I know some of y'all want $40,000. Well, you know what you're gonna shoot? I can get some things going with $40,000. Be careful out there, people. Be careful, okay? All right. The rapture is not coming, okay? It's not coming. There's things that have to happen, okay? Read your Bible. Things that must happen first, okay? Before the event happens, because that's the final event in terms of salvation. That's the final event. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know this is not something that I really do, but I really had to get into it because people out there are, they're gullible and they're believing that they're going to go to heaven. That's what people are believing. And so I just want to present what I know. And what I know for sure is that, look, these people ain't going to heaven. Okay? And you didn't wait all this time now to be a good person. No. Be kind every day. Now, I know that I'm online and I'm not kind of people online, but I'm going to tell you like this. When I do things online, it is an act. Okay? I have no ill will towards people. I really don't. I really, truly don't. I don't. I try to stay away from being personal because, for one, to me, this is a game. It's not real. So, outside of this, I will be kind to you. I actually do. Even if, now I will say this, if you get all this negative energy and you want to be mean to me, then I'm not going to talk to you because there's no point for me to talk to you if you're going to treat me like crap. I'm not going to do that. I don't see the need to. Why get abused? So, yeah, I will flee you. But, besides that, yes, outside of, when I play in Legacy Wars or whatever I'm doing, You know, I try to be kind. I try to help people when I can. I really do. Okay. You know, but it is what it is. You know, so there are people out there that don't like me. It is what it is. You don't like me, you don't like me. You know, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Okay. I just wish you the best in life. I really do. All right, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Like I said, this was a long one. It was going to be a long one. It's about an hour. And be careful out there. I mean, there are people out there, false prophets. For those who are, you know, Christian or claim to be Christian or believe in the Bible. Okay, check out the fine print when somebody talking about the end of the world. Make sure you go back and say, or ask somebody, say, hey, and then y'all can discover it together. But please don't blindly follow somebody who says something and they can't back it up. They can't prove it, because you're gonna find disappointment is gonna follow. And in times like these, especially right now, because we're in a rough economy, you know, folks might have the tendency to unalive themselves, and we shouldn't do that. We don't need that. We don't need misery. Okay, I'm all about promoting positivity and peace. So with that being said, all right, I hope you guys enjoy your day today. Thank you for watching this video, for those who stayed through this whole ordeal. And I will see you guys on the next video. All right, I'm out.